Thank you all so much for coming. I'm Kate with Fast Pup Dog Training here in Washington. I am down near the Tacoma area, and I help people understand how they can live their best life with their dogs. And with me today, I have JT Clough, who I'm going to have introduce herself, but she's another dog trainer from San Diego. And then I've got Bow Wow Bill Church, who is way north of Seattle. I think you're up by the Canadian border, and you do all kinds of awesome things up there. So, Bill, introduce yourself, would you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Bow Wow Bill, and pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And yeah, just like you're saying, I'm just north of Seattle, not quite to the border. I'm still a couple hours away. I'm up in Arlington, Washington, about 45 miles north of Seattle. But absolutely beautiful up here. Love what I do. Work with dogs every single day. Have worked with dogs since I was a young child, and love learning about them, and just a dog fanatic. So, and I love sharing my passion with people as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm going to get over to JT Clough in just a second here, but we're talking about alternative ways to treat dogs that are sick, dogs and cats and companion animals. And just between you and me and the fence post, people too. And so anyway, we're going to get into that subject here shortly, but I want JT to introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm JT Clough, and like you guys, I am a dog trainer. I also do a lot of writing about dogs and coaching in a kind of human dog relationship way. I've moved out of, I train, but I used to just train. Now I do more of that kind of stuff and more writing and things like that. So I have a website called wonderdoggear.org, which is something that helps people pay vet bills, and it segues into what we're talking about here. I see it a lot. And so my training, I still have the training portion of what I do, but I have all these other things that I bring into the world of dogs. And one of them is, what to do when something happens to them, and that kind of thing. So alternative ways of treating dogs is something that I'm passionate about. And I think there's just a lot of information that we can help a lot of people who simplest little things that don't know that they can do to help their dog in an alternative way.
So JT, you have a really nice website, and you sell a lot of gear, a lot of really cool gear off of there.
I do.
And
yes.
And so if anybody's shopping for unique gifts for a dog lover or just anything, you should definitely go to Wonder. Tell us again your website.
wonderdoggear.org, and I'll put it in the chat over here. But the point of that site is that 10% of every purchase goes to Wonder Dog Fund, and Wonder Dog Fund helps people pay vet bills that they can't afford or came up suddenly, or sometimes people are in the situation where it's like a choice they can't really even handle. And so my goal is to help as many people with those kinds of expenses as I possibly can. And that's the mission behind wonderdoggear.org.
And I love it. I absolutely love what you do, because, when you have a sick dog, you want to focus on that dog's health and getting that dog better. You don't want to be focusing on where you're going to have to pay for this. And a lot of times that money needs to come right now before we even treat this dog. And so it's a great resource to check into, and a great resource also to give if you have extra to donate. Please check it out. Yeah.
There actually is a tab at the top. So I love it when people buy things and things like that, because that's super cool. But I also, there's a great need for it, and I get requests all the time, and it's really hard when I don't have enough to cover something, or, there's just a lot of requests that come in. And so there is, at the top of it, there is a tab that says Wonder Dog Fund. You can actually just go and donate directly to the fund there. So.
And just a quick story. I sent you this message on Twitter, but you probably didn't get to see it.
I did get it, and I just didn't get a chance to. Yeah, I was like, oh, geez. It's like, yeah. I understand.
Like these things always happen to other people. And if they do happen to us, we always have money in the bank and we can always get access to the money. But this time it was really scary because I had a little dog out in the yard with another dog, and they got into it, and the little dog's leg was broken so badly that he needed an amputation. This was about 2 months ago or a month and a half ago or something like that. And so I was able, by just sheer determination and just calling, dialing to finally find a vet that would help me and would do it affordably, and worked out some things with some people and got it taken care of. But I was thinking of you, and I was like, oh, this happens, to people every single day. And when you're up against the wall and you don't have any funds, and maybe that's just because you don't have it that week, but your dog needs it right now, or your cat or whatever. So,
well, life happens. And, we live in a universe where, chaos is inevitable. We have to plan for that. And even as dog trainers and professionals, it happens to us as well. And we're going to be hosting a blab here next week we're going to be talking about dog trainer confessionals, and about when even though we're pros, we still deal with a lot of stuff that it comes along with working with animals, unpredictability and just working with another sentient being. Well,
I have a confessional for that show, so
okay, we'll have you on.
Okay, so one of the things that has really intrigued me, because I've been on the journey, that's myself personally on a health journey for the past few years. About 5 years ago, I had reached the point where I could hardly walk, and I was so inflamed and I had so much pain, and people would look at me when I would get out of my car and go, "What's wrong with you? Why are you limping?" But I wasn't really limping because I was limping evenly on all sides. It was just awful. And I felt so old and I didn't know what to do. And the prospect of trying to go to a doctor and submit myself to all kinds of tests that I didn't really want to spend the money or have the money to spend. I just felt really hopeless because I didn't think that without spending thousands and thousands of dollars that anybody would be able to figure out what was wrong with me. And so I started researching a lot of things on my own. And at that time I stopped eating gluten. And then since then, for the past couple of years, I've been very strict about not eating sugar and, really changing my diet and doing a lot of things. And I feel so much better now. And along with that has come this whole looking for solutions to why do dogs get sick, and they're correlated in kind of parallel. And so I had wanted Dr. Christina, and we'll get her on again, but I had wanted her to talk a little bit about homeopathy and holistic healing, along with your story, Bill, about some of the things that you've done with some of the dogs. Now, you don't really run a hospice, but it sounded to me like you were, that you're, in some cases, you do kind of run a hospice. Like if you have clients that can't handle that final phase of their dog's life or whatever. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, death is just a part of life. And we, it's my honor to help dogs die with dignity. And sometimes that is one of the biggest challenges that we face as dog lovers, is because these dogs don't have as much time on this earth as we do as human beings. And I like to think that they're more of a pure spirit, and that's why they go home so much quicker. But it still doesn't admonish the fact that it is very, very hard to go through. And it's hard to go through when we see our dog suffering too. And so it's something that I've decided when I traded my life to work with dogs, to be a professional about every aspect of the relationship, including saying goodbye.
Okay. And so a few months ago, I heard you tell a story about just how you've been dealing on a personal level with experimenting with different alternative methods of treating illness, and how you've been able to do that with some of the dogs in your care.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered if you would speak to that.
Well, it all started back with my wife, who was severely, had severe rheumatoid arthritis. She still does. And, she was on 20-some medications. And one day she came to me and she was gray, like literally gray, and very unhealthy looking. And I just had the realization that you're dying. Oh, my gosh. This is something that I knew I was going to get into when I married somebody with an autoimmune disorder. And so I was looking for ways that we can, help her to the next phase of her transition here. And I found medical marijuana and cannabis. And honestly, I got it just to, hold on one second, let me hang up this phone real quick. I'm sorry.
This happened on the Holistic Vet Show, too.
All right. Sorry about that. I just had a call from my mom, so she doesn't know I'm blabbing right now. And so honestly, I got the medical marijuana card so she can die happy, and kind of ease the anxiety that goes along with the many different deteriorations of her body that we were experiencing. And so we got this stuff and we started smoking it, and it was fun, but let me just tell her, call right back. Hey, let me call you right back. Bye-bye. We got it, and she started coughing when we were smoking it. And it started, her rheumatoid arthritis is a musculoskeletal disorder. And so any coughing sent her body into some spasms. And all of a sudden I was like, what the heck are we doing? And I started researching this cannabis a little bit more, and I watched a movie online. It's free to watch on YouTube called Run from the Cure. And it's a story of a gentleman named Rick Simpson from Nova Scotia, Canada, who cured his own skin cancer and some cancer in some friends with cannabis oil, which is the essential oil from the cannabis flower. And so I went and I looked into it, and I got my wife some of this oil. And this stuff you eat, you don't smoke, you eat it, you ingest it. And when I heard that, that's when I was really intrigued. And so I brought it home and gave her just a itty bitty bit. And it was night and day, compared to what she was before on any other prescription. And slowly but surely, through a couple of years, we were able to start peeling away some of these prescriptions that she was on. And she started getting better and better and better. And it was absolutely amazing to see the life come back in my wife's eye. And I was very, very thankful for this. And she's still on it. And it is just a couple medicines that she's on now. And we're doing great. Well, I saw how much this helped. And I wondered if it could help dogs. And so I started doing research into it. And then I looked at some of the medications that these dogs that were coming to me on, and there were a bunch of them. I mean, I had a Boston Terrier named Willis, and Willis has gone to heaven now, so he's passed away. But he had an extra 3-4 years with this cannabis, even with he had a neurodegenerative. I can't remember exactly his diagnosis, but he was having problems with walking. And they were putting him on sulfasalazine, which is Neurontin. They also had him on a high dose of prednisone, which was giving him manic and causing him to go, or manic behavior, and causing him to go after his litter mate. And that's what they called me for, was how to fix this behavior of this dog attacking this other dog. And I said, well, that's because of the prednisone. Let's try to see if we can give him a little cannabis to calm him down. And just like with my wife, we experienced an immediate or some immediate results that were very beneficial. And we were able to pull this dog off a bunch of pills as well. And like I said, he got 3-4 years of good quality life with this cannabis oil. And so then I started getting more and more people and more veterinarians locally, because we live in a state that it is legal. It is legal for recreational and Yeah, roid rage. Somebody just typed in the comments, and that's exactly what it is. It's roid rage. It's manic craziness that you get when you're on this prednisone. And we started doing it with more dogs, and then luckily I had a dog that was surrendered to me that was dying, that was given about 6 months to live. And she had a huge tumor on her foot, and they wanted to cut off her leg, and they wanted to do a bunch of invasive procedures. And she was 13 at the time that we got her. Actually, no, she was 11 and a half at the time that we got her. And she was just too old for the strong chemo, and I wanted to see how she responded to the cannabis. And that was 3.5 years ago. And she was given 6 months to live when she originally got her diagnosis. Now, with that vet, I went back and I showed her the dog and showed her the results, and the vet didn't want to believe it. And so with those studies, as well as many other cases, I've seen so many beneficial effects of this medicine. And so I've worked on finding the proper way to make the best medicine, as well as chosen to become an advocate for this, because the world needs to know about this. And a lot of doctors, in fact, I was just on the phone with my veterinary friend talking about the subject of this blab, and her first response was, "Oh crap, I'm federally licensed. I don't want anything to do with it." You know? And so if the laws are tying the hands of the doctors and you know, make it so they can't prescribe the proper medicine, I think something's wrong with this model. And you know what, the life energy of these dogs and my wife is way more important to me than any law that has been written up by man. So I've chosen to become an advocate and speak out for the beneficial purpose of this medicine, and educate as many people as possible.
Well, that's awesome. Now, the dog that you were just speaking of that came to you at 11 and a half, do you still have her?
Molly. Come here, baby. Molly. I have to talk to her in an English accent because her mom was English.
Molly,
So
come here.
Molly. Here she comes. And she's right here. She's an Airedale Cross. Come here, baby. I got 3 dogs from running in now. So, let me see if I can get her up for you. Here she is. She's like, what the heck?
Hey, Molly.
Here, let me get you.
Oh, she's cute. Look at her.
There we go. She's
That's awesome.
like, but she's.
And how old is she now?
Well, 3.5 years later, so she's almost 15 now. You know?
Okay.
And she's running around like a pup. And we have her on a daily regimen of cannabis oil, just a little dot of it. But we had her dose. I mean, I was making like these little sandwiches. And I mean, if you or I were to take the dose that she got up to, we would have a bad day, you know. And it builds a tolerance. And you know, that's what the thing is that people, I believe, overdose themselves and their dogs if they try this out. Or sometimes the dog will get into an ashtray or their stash of pot or whatever, and they'll eat a lot more than is recommended. And I think that is where this has gotten a bad name as far as being toxic for dogs. But I'm here to share my observations that it's not. In fact, it has helped my dog, and not just my dog, but many other dogs, not just with life-threatening diagnosis, but also with behavioral issues. And even high CBD oils. I've been working with some dogs with reactivity, getting them to calm down, allow a little bit more stimulus so they're not thrown over threshold right away. And it kind of puts them in a more accepting mood, a better mood.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So with the dogs that you're treating for behavioral issues, are you first trying just good old-fashioned dog training and it's not working? Or?
Well, and it's also for cases that have been through multiple trainers, or just like that are just going over threshold right away, and that are very high reactivity, you know, cases that just don't seem to allow any type of gap between that stimulus and response. And they're just flying off the handle at just about everything. And what I find it allows a little bit of open receptivity and kind of puts that dog in a more optimistic mood.
I don't know a lot about cannabis. I know that I used to ditch school and go smoke it when I was in high school.
I knew I liked it.
It was always available. But, so I'm aware of the effects when one smokes it and you're doing, what is it, the THCs? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol is a psychoactive ingredient that gets human beings high. In order for it to become psychoactive, it has to be heated up to over 200 degrees. Okay? And so if you were to go out into a plant and just start eating or juicing those leaves, you're not going to get high. You actually have to heat it up to activate that delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. Now, the delta-9 affects human beings, but the delta-1 through 9 affects the dog. Okay, so the dog has a totally different onset of symptoms once they've ingested this cannabis. And that's why it's very important to start small, to see how the dog does with it, and then increase the dose based on the dog's response.
So I was talking on a blab last week, I think it was, to a couple of people that are in Colorado, and they're shipping CBD oil. And I'm hearing that a lot of people are having success with like reducing inflammation and stuff with CBD, which is different than the THC. Yes. And she was explaining to me that the THC, if you balance it with the CBDs and all this stuff, it was very complicated, but that really the THC is really the one that people need to get, or dogs need to get. This is about
people are crazy about CBD, and I get it. And CBD strains, cannabidiol is what CBD stands for. Cannabidiol is a cannabinoid. Cannabinoids are compounds. We, as human beings, have an endocannabinoid system. Basically, everything with a spine has an endocannabinoid system in it. Okay, what the cannabinoids do is allow our various organs and functions of our body to communicate cell on a cellular level with each other. And so it kind of puts like a broadband internet in our body for our cells, okay? And so if we have something that is going wrong with one system, they can sound the alarm, and the rest of the systems could come to the aid of that body system. Now, with the CBD oil, and the reason why they're able to ship this out is that it's considered hemp, which is 0.3 or 0.03 percentage of THC, which is the same as found in hemp plants, which is the plants that are used for fibers. And although it does have some medicinal benefits to it, it's nothing like that THC. And that THC is definitely, a medicinal property that has been shown to reduce the size of tumors. It has been shown to kill cancer cells while leaving regular cells alone. And I tell people, do not believe a word that I say. Research what I say. Go into YouTube and type in the case studies that they show that the THC is killing these cells. And go look at the 1974 study done, as well as many other studies that have been done to show the beneficial medicinal properties of this plant. And also there's a patent out there that is owned by the U.S. government, and it's just silly that they claim that there is no medicinal property, but then they own the patent, and the patent number, hold on one second. My wife is at home. Let me take care of this off.
So one of the things I've been confused about, and I wanted to get cleared up from him is CBD, like if they're just using CBD, is it doing anything? Does it have any effect on various different things in dogs, whether it's tumors or anxiety or,
my light pulled up
anything
right
like
away.
that.
So the patent number is, let's see here.
Bill, I just made you a host so that you should be able to drop a link in if you want to. And I also made you a host, JT.
Okay. So quick question, Bill. When you bring this up, and I've read enough about it and talked to you enough times that I should know this, but somehow I don't. So the CBD used alone is not really getting the effect that we're looking for, whether it's, tumor, cancer, anxiety, behavioral issues. Is that true?
That's true.
It used to be in conjunction with the THC oil.
Correct. And the other thing is that the CBD seem to work more on the neuro disorders like epilepsy or neurodegenerative disorders, where the THC really works on the tumors and the cancers here. So let me see if I can type in this link here.
I think it's so fascinating. And you said something about this, and I've heard other people say that we are born with receptors, and you said along the spine, receptors.
Well, no, anything with the spine has an endocannabinoid system. These receptors are all throughout our body. And that's why I ask people, why do you think the cannabis has such a profound effect on core temperature, mood, sleep function, appetite? There's so many different things because it fits into our body like a lock into, or a key into a lock.
That is so fascinating.
Yes, and the endocannabinoid system was not found, but in the late 80s. And so, and the THC molecule was found in the 60s. And so even though it's been illegal, it's just been even more hard to find information on this stuff because we don't have too much research done on the plant.
And as far as the government having this patent on the plant, I'm not even sure what that means. I guess the government can do whatever it wants, even though it's supposed to be of the people, but they have a patent on it, even though it's something from nature. And why do they have that?
Exactly. Great questions. These are all great questions. And why
are they? And
why is my doctor so afraid? My veterinary friend kicking me out of her office because I got a flower on me. And that all the oil that we're taking is the essential oils from this flower. And it's because people have been brainwashed, because the Henry Anslinger and at the end of alcohol prohibition was looking for a way to transmute those agencies to another way to police and to remain intact. And that's when they started the drug war. And we could also look at the quotes of Henry Anslinger, where he said that this drug needs to remain illegal because it makes white women dance with Negroes.
Nice.
And it's just preposterous, It's that this stuff is illegal, where it's obviously great medicine. I've seen it work. I've seen it melt tumors. I had a dog with a tennis ball tumor, and this is when I decided, I was like, wow. This is when I decided to become an advocate, because I watched this tumor melt a third overnight. Literally overnight. I gave the dog a dose at night, woke up in the morning, and that thing had shrunk down.
Yeah. And I don't know whether there's any studies about this, but I've heard analogy after analogy.
Oh, you were breaking up there just now.
After analogy
froze up.
Oh, she froze up?
Yep.
We took over the blood.
Once again. Here we go, Bill.
JT Bill coming up to you live.
Yeah, no, I don't know if she can hear us, because she's like, if you can hear us, Kate, you're frozen.
Yeah, you need to call back in to your blab. It's okay, I'll be hosting.
Okay, so.
Well, and that's it.
So it's my big concern here, when you talk about that, when you bring up your vet like freaks out if you walk in with something, a little something on you or whatever. How do we make it so that people understand how they can get it, how they can figure out how to treat their dog or themselves, or, you know, who's ever in their life that really needs it? You know, I think a lot of people are at a real loss at how you would get something like that done when it's not available. And when you go talk to your vet about it, they're like, oh, go, out, go, get out of my office.
Because, and that's exactly what my vet friend said, was like, look, I have a federal license. I am regulated by the DEA.
Right. Yeah.
And right there, it's just like, hey, you know, I thought you were here to help dogs, you know, and that's what we need to remember, is what is important here. And
She's
we
back.
have our guest back. Great to have you.
Oh my
and
gosh.
we have to use our voice. You know, there's a time that we have to say enough is enough. You know, follow the truth, not man's law. That's exactly right. My friend over here says, it's like, you know, just because these guys have decided and written down on a piece of paper that it's illegal or whatever, we need to say, no, that's not valid. And that's, you know, obviously we have evidence, we have case studies that are compiling. In fact, go look at YouTube at all these different case studies of people that have been sent home to die. And they found this cannabis oil, and now they're alive and kicking, and they go back into the hospital, and the hospital is looking at them like they're looking at a ghost. You know, because
Yeah. Well, I mean, Chris Work just came yesterday with a new YouTube video that he shot like 2 days ago at a cancer conference, an interview with a woman, a young gal in her 20s, who, when she was 17, was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma. And they couldn't get rid of it. They could, you know, and they did the chemo and the radiation and all kinds of stuff, and nothing worked, and everything kept coming back, and tumors kept coming. And finally, after exhausting everything, that she and her mom decided that they were going to start not using cannabis, but just juicing and doing the Gerson therapy. And her cancer, her melanoma, the tumor started shrinking immediately, and they went, after I think it was 3 or 4 months, she went back to see where her cancer was at, and there was none. This is going from stage 4 melanoma, after doing all kinds of chemo and radiation, to nothing, to no cancer. And that's not even bringing.
Yeah, well, and then when you go and share the stories with these doctors that are on the same boat as my friend, who might get their license taken away if they allowed this Schedule 1 illegal drug into their facility, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. And who else do you talk to? You know, and when the people that are supposed to be helping us are looking at us like we're crazy.
Well, they're in a really tough spot. It's really hard to be brave when you've spent all that money and taken out student loans, and you could potentially not only lose your practice, but there was a rash of medical doctors and naturopaths and so on and so forth last summer that just started disappearing.
Still today, there was a doctor that was just stabbed in her apartment. Brings the total up to 37 doctors now that have been killed. Yeah, holistic doctors.
Oh,
a lot
really?
of these doctors have found a correlation between vaccines and cancer. And the doctor that was just found stabbed to death, her name was, she was a doctor of college, Quincy professor, holistic doctor, and her name was Dr. Rasmussen. And I'll put up her link right here. And so there is something fishy kind of going in the background here, where a lot of these holistic doctors are ended up being murdered, and we don't hear anything about it. And it's just, I don't know why it won't allow it to post up in the window here. But yeah, very interesting. Here, I'll put up the link in the comments that people can check it out. And this is 37 doctors that have been killed. And there's a couple, Health Nut News is somebody that is really looking into this and doing a lot of studies, and that's where this link comes from. but it deserves our attention, and it deserves to be questioned.
And that's Erin Elizabeth, and she's the other half of Dr. Mercola. So she's really tied into all of this, and she has reason to be worried herself. And and Rasmussen, I'm gonna have to look that up when we get off, because that name sounds really familiar.
Well, and that's it. Is when we say enough is enough, and that's the key. Is when we start questioning our doctors, but then we also have to look at the relationship with our doctors and our veterinarians and realize that they are consultants. And that's why we get second and third opinions, is because we're...
And the problem is that most people don't know where to turn or where to look. And the word is spreading that there are alternatives out there. And that's part of the reason we're doing this. Because people need to know that there are alternatives for their companion animals and even for our
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry.
What's up? You gotta
go? Was that ringing? Could you guys hear?
Yeah. Heard you chatting away. It's cool though. Uh-oh.
Okay, it looks like
we can hear you.
Need to refresh if you guys can hear me. Because on my screen, you guys are like poor internet signal, but it's probably me. So I'm going to refresh.
That's what we were chatting with. Is like, we need to use logic. We need to really, really look at this.
I got to run, guys. So sorry.
Oh, you do have to run, JP?
Yeah, okay. I had a prior commitment here, so I need to run and deal with them. But anyway, so. Sorry, I didn't contribute a whole lot, but I contributed a little. And so I really, just want to figure out a way to get this message out to people. That's my mission here.
And before you go, JT, tell us one more time about your Wonder Dog Gear website.
Okay, so my website is called wonderdoggear.org. If you accidentally put .com in, that's okay. It forwards to it. I'm kind of an internet geek. But anyway, I have all kinds of fun things on there for people, dog lovers, little necklaces. People love my little necklaces because I have breed specific stuff. So they love that. Things for dogs. I've got a couple different leash options on there that have been interesting that people like, but just all kinds of stuff. And it's always changing. I find different things to put on there. The goal behind those things is to support Wonder Dog Fund, which helps people pay veterinary bills when something comes up with their dogs. And whether it's something like your dog accidentally broke its leg in a situation, or they have some sort of, just saying, or they have some sort of situation where they have this illness, whether it's a tumor, something like that, and they end up with these veterinary bills. I started the fund because I had a dog that got a neck injury, and they were predicting that it was $13,000 bill to fix it. So a lot of times people can't afford something like that. So a portion of every purchase from the website goes to the Wonder Dog Fund so that I can help people pay veterinary bills. And you can also, and I have many people, and I love this, many people donate directly to it. And you can do that on the site too. There's a little tab at the top that says Wonder Dog Fund. And at the bottom, there's a drop-down menu, and you can donate directly to it. I'm really good about getting information out to people when I do help dogs, and get their story out to people so that they know what they helped. And it just brings goodness all around. So thanks for helping me get the word out about it. And I just want to be able to help more people. And I want to be able to help more people in this way too, by getting them information on how they can take care of their dog to avoid things that might cost them a whole lot of money. So
you're awesome, JT.
All right, thank you. And I'll see you guys soon. And we'll talk soon. Bye for now.
Have a good evening. Okay, so getting back to, so for anybody just joining us, we're talking about alternative, and now I've lost Bill.
I'm back.
And he's coming back. So for anyone just joining us, we're talking about alternative ways of treating dogs, and my intention was to have along with Bill Church, who is also known as Bow Wow Bill, and who does awesome work on all sorts of levels with dog training and alternative care for the dogs in his care, was to have Dr. Christina Chambreau, who
we'll do another one with her on there too, because I love chatting with docs.
So I was kind of talking over you. Say that one more time.
I said we'll do another one if you're interested with her, because I love chatting with doctors and learning as much as I can as well, and just about the different functions and systems about dogs. Like I said, I'm a dog fanatic, so.
Okay, and I can also ask Dr. Jeff and see if he'll participate as well. He's another homeopathic and holistic doctor.
Beautiful. Well, and I got a couple docs up here that I can ask as well. So we'll see if we can get a good roundtable discussion. And that's the people that we need to reach, is the people that are in charge, made by our society to be in charge of these health issues, and ask them questions. Why isn't cannabis legal? Why won't you prescribe it? Why aren't we becoming more of an advocate for this? A lot of doctors are leaning towards Chinese medicine, and a lot of those compounds are proven medicinal benefits from these herbs, and a lot of holistic methods are the go-to before we start going to Western traditional type of medicine. And it seems to be a big piece of the puzzle that's missing here.
Well, and I know that a lot of MDs and a lot of veterinarians, starting with Dr. Karen Becker, who is a big leader in the holistic veterinary field, and she's the veterinary side of the Mercola site. A lot of veterinarians really want to help. They really want to help heal animals, and they get really frustrated they get out of veterinary school, and they discover that they're having a really hard time healing the dogs and the cats and the other companion animals, and they start turning to other methods. And it is growing, and there's a whole society. I should have the name of it, but it's American Holistic Veterinary Association, but there's 2 more words in there. It's like 6 words long, but if you Google it, you'll find it. And they have a conference every year, and last year they even had veterinarians that work in the food animal side attend. And so people are looking, and MDs are looking they get frustrated. They spent all this money to go to medical school, and they get out, and all they can do is prescribe pharma. And they don't know anything. They're not trained, but a lot of them are looking to get trained in nutrition, because both veterinarians and doctors are not trained in nutrition. And then they're starting to look at other things as well. But you have, that's it. And so you have so much experience with in particular, cannabis. So I want to get back into that, discussing that a little bit, but also, have you tried other things? Like, have you tried any frankincense, or have you done anything with essential
lavender,
oils?
Turmeric, coconut oil, all these things. And you're absolutely right. Diet is a huge part of the puzzle. And just like these doctors, they take a Hippocratic oath. Well, what's Hippocrates, famous for saying? Let food be thine medicine, right? And so, of course, if we have these foods that are filled with so many preservatives and fillers and GMOs, all that stuff, we're not even taking into consideration of that. That's leaving out a huge, huge part of the equation here that isn't going to give us the correct answer. If we were doing a math problem and only half of the equation was available to us, and we solved that half of the equation, we still wouldn't be correct until we see the whole picture. And that's what we need to do here, is take a whole picture approach here and ask the hard questions. Why is it illegal? And why can't I use it? And if I can't, and if we don't have a good answer, then we need to go forward using it and protest it by disobeying these unjust laws. And one of our founding fathers was very famous in the fact that, what was he saying, that if a law is unjust, it is not only our duty to disobey it, it is our moral obligation. And that's, I believe, Thomas Jefferson. And I'm paraphrasing that quote, but I'm wholeheartedly in the belief of that this is put on this earth for our benefit. And just because some men have gotten together to decide that we can't use it, that doesn't really mean anything to me, you know? And not only that, but I've traded my life to live with my wife and to spend as much, you know, quality time with her. And if this is the compound, the medicine that allows me to spend the most time with her on this earth, you know what? There's nothing that's going to stop me from giving it to her. The only thing that would stop me is if they chose to throw me in a cage or take my earthly body. And, you know, pretty soon you get to that point where you're like, no, enough is enough. We need to realize the most powerful word that we can say, and that is no. No more. And
we're so fortunate because we do live in Washington, and we do have much more liberal laws about using the cannabis, along with Colorado and California. And I mean, I'm reading anecdotal stories about you know, people juicing the plant and using it as medicine that way. Down in California, there's a couple, and the gal, the husband is a medical doctor, and the gal that is the patient, you know, she's tried everything for years and just gotten worse and worse. And then when they started juicing it, she started to get dramatically better.
Well, and we have to look at the you know, I tell people to be cautious with the juicing because the plant detoxifies the soil, and so you just have to make sure that you're planting it into a really nice controlled environment, because if that plant is detoxing that soil, guess where those toxins go? And you know what, there's a quote that this reminds me of by Dr. William Courtney regarding juicing the plant, and it says that cannabis isn't a drug. It's an essential herbal dietary supplement that nutritionally enhances the body following millions of years of co-human evolution as a food source. Its deprivation in human populations today creates a vast number of ailments that may simply be a result of unnatural cannabis deficiency in the population. And I agree wholeheartedly with that. A lot of these disorders or diagnoses are basically a deficiency of cannabinoids. And when we...
Well, and like going back to what you mentioned about us, all vertebrate animals, including us, have been designed by our maker to have plugins specifically designed to receive the cannabinoids. I'm probably not saying that right. You're so much better versed in it. So, you know, it's just really important that, and then again, I mean, I decided that I wanted to try the cannabis for me because I've struggled for 30 years with nasal polyps and the Samter's triad. I don't have asthma, but I have a severe allergy to aspirin, and that may have actually perhaps caused what I have. But I went to a naturopath and I asked for a prescription, and her eyes got big as saucers, and she was like, "Oh no, you know, we're controlled by the federal government, and there's very specific things that I can prescribe cannabis for, and that's not on the list, and no." And so even a naturopathic physician, you know, they're afraid they're going to lose their licenses. So it's incumbent upon us to search out the people who will. And a lot of times, I have a friend, John Cody, who does podcasts and has written a book based on the podcast called Healthcare Elsewhere. And people are traveling outside the country, and there's clinics in Mexico where people are going to get help. But of course, we're not so likely to take our dogs to Mexico.
That's right. And not only that, but it's, you know, just like what you know, Joustin over here was saying about his father, losing his father to melanoma, and I'm so sorry, you know, but it's also people are becoming refugees in the United States, moving to Washington and Colorado because their kids have epilepsy. And how dare the government allow that to happen? How dare the people that are supposed to be, the ones that are helping us, why aren't they, mad as hell? And why aren't they?
I'll be right back. Keep talking. I'm just going to be right here.
Okay.
I've got to take care of the dog.
And why aren't they mad as hell? And that's what I'm talking about, where that word, the all-knowing word, because it makes women, that's why. The all-knowing, the all-powerful word is no. And that's the reason why I say it's the powerful word. And it's also known as the lost word, because in the enlightened state of consciousness generated through knowledge, a human being is finally able to speak that lost word, which is no. And only when we say no to those who would claim to be our owners, those who claim that it is they who will decide which rights we do and do not have, do we stop externalizing our power to anyone outside of ourselves. And in doing so, you reclaim all your rights. And sadly, very, very few people, including the ones in the positions of power that we rely on to help us, don't have the knowledge, the care, or the courage that is required to do this. It does take courage. And that is why, this all-powerful word is considered lost. And so we need to start saying, no, we're not going to support your model until you have taken into consideration, the many different healing properties of this plant. And if you look at this wheel that I just posted below, there's CBD, there's Delta-9 THC, there's CBC, and look at all of the different ailments that it can help with, from anti-epileptic, antipsychotic, anti-prolific, antispasmodic, antimicrobial. It's a bone stimulant, anti-inflammatory. There's like 5 or 6 different bone stimulants, and just in these compounds alone, and these are scientifically proven. And so why the hell is this stuff illegal? And it just makes me so mad, but it's also what fuels my fire to get out there and talk to people and educate them about this and share my story, share my observations and my experience as well.
Yes, excellent. And it's incumbent upon us to, to keep spreading the word. And because most of us, Simon Streets, I'm going to let you in if you'll stay for a little bit. Stay about 4 more minutes and I'll stop the recording and I'll let you in to talk directly to us, okay? So going back to what I was saying, though, it's incumbent upon all of us because nobody ever sees a need for any of this until we're sick. I didn't. Like, we're never sick until we're sick. It's okay to eat hot dogs and donuts and pizza and feed our dogs horrible, horrible, horrible stuff that comes in convenient packages. And then one day we wake up and the dog is sick or we're sick. And then we start looking around of what can we do. And of course we run to the allopathic model because that's what we've been brainwashed our whole entire lives. Our parents were brainwashed into it. And it's not until like Chris Beat Cancer, Chris Wark, when he interviewed that gal the other day, they kept going back for more chemo. They kept going back for more chemo. And the tumors kept sprouting more and more and more. The more chemo she got, the worse her immune system became. And the chemo was going to kill her. And they reached the point where there was nothing else they could do except try natural medicine. And they didn't even use cannabis. All they did was, use juicing and the Gerson therapy. And within 6 weeks, they turned that sucker around. And within 3 or 4 months, her stage 4 melanoma was gone. So it is incumbent upon those of us who have discovered this
to use your voice and to
people.
Speak the truth. And as I've journeyed down this path, more and more people every single day have sent me messages about their success stories using cannabis that has just fueled me even more. And I've had a gal named Linda, who was diagnosed with stage 4 renal and adrenal cancer that had metastasized to her lungs. And she was given 10 months to live. And the doctors really couldn't do anything for her. None of the chemo or none of the radiation was a viable option. And so she just turned to cannabis oil, and she's doing great. She's in full remission now. And now it's her mission to get people into remission. And I often ask people this, and I ask doctors this, is like, if I injected somebody with poison until they died, what would you consider me? You know, and that's what we need to do, is take a long, hard look at this. And just because somebody tells you that it's okay, and just because these pharmaceutical companies have spent a lot of money on this, doesn't negate the fact that a lot of this stuff is poison. A lot of this stuff has profit motives behind it, and where we need to look at the life energy of our fellow human being and a compassion, empathy, and love that we have for each other to get over these, and to stop just believing in an expert and stop taking declarative sentences and start researching this stuff. Just like with me, don't believe what I say, research what I say, you know, and try it for yourself. If you have diabetic ulcers, put some cannabis oil on there. If you have ailments, try it out, you know. And that's where, you know, the Western model, people say, well, that's no good. And I'm just like, no, I'm not saying that either, because there's no other place that I would rather be than a Western hospital if I experience some form of trauma, like a car wreck or my leg broken or something like that. You know, to me, the Western model, that's exactly what that's for. Now, when they start getting into the preventative stuff, that's where they go wrong. And so, you know, that's where I'm all about is, you know, using it, but also once we find out the truth, we use our voice to speak it. To know and not to act is not to know.
Okay, Simon Streets has left, and I think we're coming up to the top of the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording unless there's something else that you want to say about this.
You know what? There's some shows that I recommend people watching. Just go into YouTube and type in "Cannabis Cures Cancer." There's a movie called "What If Cannabis Cured Cancer," narrated by Peter Coyote. It was really, really well done. Like I was saying earlier about the show Run from the Cure, definitely check that one out. Clearing the Smoke, as well as check out Rick Simpson's site, phoenixtears.ca. And yeah, well, and you know, look at the many, many different case studies. And we just had a comment over here that that his father didn't die from the melanoma; he died from the heart attack. But he believes that the heart attack was brought about from the stress of the meds and the chemo. And you better believe that does wreck your. I mean, it really does a number to your body. And if we look at the number of deaths every year, the third leading cause of death, number 3, is medical mistakes. And so, with that being said, you know, I love and appreciate every single one of you, and you know, thank you so much for having me on, and this is something that I will talk about all day long and share my story and share my observations with as many people as I can, because the world needs to know about this wonderful medicine, and also need to know that this is a weed. You know, that's why they call it a weed, and so it's easy to grow. You know, there's lots of different strains that might be a little bit more finicky than others, but also look at the misdemeanor laws in your state. How many ounces constitutes as a misdemeanor? And if we have 6 ounces, guess what? You can make a lot of oil with 6 ounces. And so stay below that misdemeanor, you know, and start talking to the police, start talking to the people that enforce these laws, and remind them that enforcement of misdemeanors is up to them. They can choose whether or not to enforce that misdemeanor, and tell them to stop. Tell them to say no, to use that powerful word. So thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording, and so I just asked Bill to tell us how we can get hold of him, both at his website and you know, whatever ways you want to tell people, and then also about the broadcasts that you're doing about dog training and health and whatever.
all this stuff. We're to be doing a dog trainer confessional next Wednesday, so that should be fun. I'm already reaching out to a bunch of my colleagues and laughing my butt off, including you, Kate. You're going to come on and tell us about your confessional as well. And people think that just because we're dog trainers, we live this dream life with dogs, and that's not usually the case. We all have stories, and usually they're hilarious because of the expectations that are bestowed upon us as professionals. So, and it also is reassuring to hear that even us as dog training professionals have problems with our dogs too, and reminds us that we are working with animals, and animals can be unpredictable, even trained ones. So thank you so much for what's going on.
That broadcast is next Wednesday at what time?
Every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. We do our blab, JT and I. JT, yeah, 5:30 Pacific next Wednesday. And we try to stick on that schedule. Sometimes we go a little bit earlier if something happens that calls our attention away. But I'm having a lot of fun doing this stuff and love speaking truth to all of you, and appreciate your time tonight. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can message me, bowwowbill@gmail.com. You can check out my Facebook page, facebook.com/bowwowbills, plural. And also I do Skype consultants. If you're not in the Washington area, Seattle area, we can do some dog training consultants over Skype. I am Bow Wow Bill, one word on Skype. Add me there, and we can fix a lot of problems over Skype. And if not, then I have a huge network of dog trainers that I can refer you to if you need some hands-on help. So thank you, everybody.
And do you have time for one more question that Patty asked? She says she has a weak 15-year-old dog and wants to try the THC oil, but it may be too strong for him.
Yeah, I always recommend my clients get a senior panel for dogs that are older like that. And if anything, start out very, very, very small dose, like just a thread, not even a dot. I'll take a bunch of treats or some little snacks or whatever that I'm dosing up for them, and I'll take the cannabis oil, and it's almost like it's really, really like a tar, and so it's really stringy, and so I'll just put a thread over all this where you can barely even see it, and then I'll dose the dog and just check on the dog periodically, see how they're handling it. And I like to dose them at night when they're sleeping, and if they seem like they're doing okay, then I'll slowly increase that dose. You bet.
Okay, well, this was fantastic.
See you Saturday. Absolutely. I got an appointment actually with JR Star, or JR 5-star this Saturday with her pup. So we're gonna get together and see if I can help some.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Bill. And let's do this again. And I'll track Dr. Christina down and also Dr. Jeff, and see if we can bring them on to one of either your show or mine. So.
Well, and Shara Cutton Caller wanted to know, what did the oil do? And it helps, it's like a panacea. It helps people, dogs, with a variety of different ailments. So check it out. Watch the show, Run from the Cure, on YouTube. And thanks again, Kate.
And be sure to listen to the recording, because I forgot to turn it off again.